Watching for the lights, they are on. Good start from pole position. That's the battle for the championship lead, just 7 points separating those two. Is he going to be able to get the run here? There's contact there. This is going to be another massive story and another driver potentially on with a podium finish. He's got it! He's got it!
Well, with the storms seemingly behind us and only racing in our future, our journey continues to find more and more great young talent. What a round one it was when we saw at Silverstone, Monica Bolton-Ramos taking victory in the girls' race, Dylan Warren taking victory in the boys. It was an excellent way to start the season with an evening of entertainment at the home of British motorsport. We now head though to the Styrian Mountains for a circuit maybe not loved for how it drives, but certainly is for how it races. The Red Bull Ring, of course, here in round number 2 of 5 in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports Competition UK. I'm Lewis McGlade. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Cameron Rodger. And we can see there with the calendar on our screens, Silverstone was fantastic. Cam, Red Bull Ring, this is surely going to be one up.
Yeah, this is a great track. Maybe be a little bit shorter, being a little bit more suited to the car as well. So I think we're going to see some absolutely great racing here. Some good, really fast flowing corners at this track. Good fun, and I think it's going to be a nice evening of racing.
Yeah, you can see there the calendar that was coming up. Of course, it does go over a few rounds. The evening's entertainment, though, starts here with the girls' race. Free practice presently underway. We'll go into qualifying in a few moments' time to sort out the grid for the half-hour race, and then the boys will be going onto the racetrack as well. Again, we'll repeat that: free practice, qualifying, and then into a half-hour race, which in both senses were fantastic. Last round out saw plenty of drama, but the circuit here today is quite different than Silverstone. Silverstone could be a little bit tricky to overtake, can be a little bit tricky to find your way past, to navigate through a grid, although we did see plenty of great moves. Here at the Red Bull Ring, here in Austria, not so much. Not quite the case. This is one that is wide open to plenty of brilliant moves. Slipstream is going to be king around here.
Yeah, a lot of straights, and the overtaking is sort of endless at this track. You can really overtake at pretty much every single corner here. There's going to be some nice battles indeed. And yeah, the slipstream, I think, is going to be the major points, especially sort of the start, finish straight, then second straight and third straight. 3 straights in a row with big braking zones at the end of it. It's going to be quite difficult for defending, I would say. I think it's going to be definitely in favour of the drivers behind getting that slipstream. As you see here, 160 brake horsepower, so not loads of horsepower, but it's only 570 kilos, so a good couple of hundred kilos lighter than sort of prototypes, GT cars, etc. Really light cars, really nimble cars, which should bring on a good show for us.
I think it means that timing is going to be critical today. It's not so easy as to just go out there and attack 110%. You need to use your brains if you want to be victorious here today. Last time out, did allude to it earlier, Monica Bolton-Ramos was victorious in the opening round of the season, and because of that, along with the bonus point as well for fastest lap, leads the championship ahead of Macy hitter Ella Wrigley, who is not here racing today, and Lois Millwall behind. Must say though about that win for Monica Bolton-Ramos, I think we saw a couple of mistakes late in the race, a couple of larger issues that were starting to show. It was a dominant performance, was much faster than Macy hitter behind, but those mistakes around a circuit list where the times are going to be closer, where the slipstream is going to drag you along even if you are a few tenths off, those mistakes can't happen around here.
Yeah, you can't. And also, I think the runoff areas here are a lot more unforgiving than Silverstone. Silverstone had a few sort of big tarmac runoffs that Monaco went off into. And fortunately, you can get back on here. You see there's these big gravel traps, even the barriers being a lot closer here, a lot more of an old school feel to the circuit. So yeah, those mistakes are going to be quite costly at this track. And in a 30-minute race, there's plenty of time for those mistakes to happen. And maybe Macy can actually get on top of Monaco here.
Yeah, like I say, anything can really happen around a circuit. That's why we love it so much. Drivers for today, of course, we're going to have Monica, Bolton, Ramos. But you can see there, these are in the order that they were in the pre-qualifying. And you can tell from that, Macy Hitter topped the pre-qualifying coming into this, maybe looking a little bit faster. Fresh faces in the form of Chloe Grant and Jess White. Lewis Millwood, again, joins us for another evening's entertainment. No, it is not the most amount of cars. Yes, that's fine. We kind of see this. This is the kind of the critical point that we were speaking of last round about getting people to inform others about this championship and getting more involved in this championship. Of course, it is wide open for anyone who wants to know about this title and how to take part in it. The qualifying is open, by the way, for Monza for next round, and we'll go into this a bit more as the evening goes on. You must be a UK resident in between the ages of 14 and 15. If you know anyone that fits that bracket, boys or girls, let's get them onto the grid and let's get them to take part. This is how we move forward in sim racing. But to be fair, I still think we're in for a great race because Macy Hitter topping that session, Monica Bolton Ramos, very, very close. Those two, I think, are going to put on a show.
Oh, they certainly are. And as you're saying, I mean, this is really the place where you're going to be sort of getting these new faces. You're going to be seeing these new people and looking at the times as well. They're a lot closer than what they were at Silverstone. So there's definitely some improvements being made. And I think over the course of the season, hopefully there'll be more sort of exposure to this, especially towards girls who were obviously trying to get a new generation of drivers coming through. And it would be good to obviously get all genders involved in that and really sort of pushing the way forward of having a bit more of a equal playing field, because there's no reason in sim racing why obviously girls can't race against the boys, and maybe one day we'll see a bit of a mixed race and then we see if the girls can actually take on some of the boys.
Yeah, we certainly know that there are times, of course, me and you commentated on Emily Jones this morning, who put on a fantastic display to win in the sim racing event that she was taking part in. So there is talent out there and it is ready to be seen. Speaking of things being ready to be seen, practice is presently underway. 1 minute and 45 seconds left on the clock. Let's take a look at what is happening on the racetrack as we speak. Said that we've got 5 drivers in this. Macy Hitter topping the session at the moment with a 1:36.194, only 2/10 clear of Monica Bolton Ramos. Now, what that tells me, Cam, is that we have a fight in our hands, because 2/10 typically, sometimes you might look at it and think that's quite a large gap. If you think of this in GT racing and stuff, that might be even too large of a gap to sort of claw back in the race. In this style of car, you've got to think of it closer to super speedway racing, which is very fitting this weekend, got to be said. It is a lot closer to being in that sort of avenue, and I think we're in for an absolute thriller.
Oh, we certainly are. And as the practice session is obviously coming to a close, we'll get into the qualifying session where we'll really see the potentially the fastest lap times out there. But you might see a slight difference to the pre-qualifying times, because in the pre-qualifying times, there's within reason there's an unlimited amount of laps that you can do, whereas in the qualifying session you've got only a few laps on the board. You've really just got to try and go out there and put the lap down. So we might see a little bit of an upset here and there if someone makes a bit of a mistake.
Yeah, and like I say, mistakes around this circuit, they bite very, very hard, particularly in the turn 6, turn 7. Turn 1 you've got plenty of runoff. Turn 3, read into that what you will. This is turn 2 apparently. We're going to go into this quite a few times this evening, and this is turn 3. Plenty of runoff to run wide into. But turn 6, turn 7, those 2 left-handers in the middle of the track, they bite, and they bite hard. If you miss your braking point coming down into turn 4, lock up and go straight on. Again, it bites quite hard. In qualifying, you have time to get away with it. In the race, not so much. And it's about that kind of balance, about, as we've said before, pushing it to the limit in the qualifying, and then, especially with how the slipstream is, dialing it back a fair amount in the race.
Yeah, the race is where the consistency comes in, and that is really the biggest factor. And you know, we're fighting for a real life seat, and the consistency in real life is also what's quite important as well, because especially with crashes and things like that in real life, that's going to obviously cost money to repair the car and things along those lines. So you really got to have someone who's able to be fast, but also keeping on the track and making sure that you are obviously getting towards the end of the race, because that's where all of the points are paid. And as you see, drivers now coming out onto the track for their qualifying session need to find a bit of space, but I wonder if someone's going to get a cheeky bit of slipstream to gain the extra tenth or two here and there.
Yeah, how to steal a pole position, especially in a low-powered Formula. Stick with someone very, very quick. I did it to, I don't know if you remember Arne Schonfleet. We were racing in Clears once. A driver who is far superior to me is Arne. Very, very quick. We were racing in Clears, and he would be the fastest person on the server. I'd just sit behind him. I was probably about 3, 4, 5 tenths off per lap. But the slipstream was enough to drag you into pole position contention, and I did steal 1 or 2 off them, poor lad. But in this, it is in that vein. You can genuinely steal a pole position if you sit behind the fastest person, the second fastest person. You can get yourself right into the mix.
Yeah, you absolutely can, and with just how close the times were, especially between Hitter and Ramos, that could be quite an important factor for the race as well. Ramos having the points lead there in the girls' side of things. Also, I believe getting the fastest lap in the first race as well, so the extra point there. So bit of a, in terms of the points, bit of a gap for a Hitter to climb. Let's see if she can do that today. Certainly looking pretty fast here at Austria. So let's see on board, or sort of with the TV cams now, what Ramos can do here as she comes up the hill for the first time.
Yeah, climbing and going downhill is all a part of the nature of this circuit, undulating massively as we run through turn 2 and then back up the hill into the third corner. Super tight here, one that many drivers have made critical errors in at any point of motorsport, either at the lowest or at the top. Nicely navigated there by Monica Bolton-Ramos, our pole position and race winner. I think that was one of the main things that we need to speak about of last round, was Macy Hitter, who qualified in second position, had one of the worst starts that I have seen in sim racing for a while. I mean, this is me trying to throw her under the bus. Fair enough. I guarantee. I think if she wasn't in that poor of a start and wasn't dropped behind Ella Wrigley in the early stages, I think genuinely might have been able to keep up with Monica Bolton-Ramos. And if she was making the mistakes she was towards the end of the race, I think could have absolutely contended for victory. And I think she'll know that more so than anyone else. And so I think that's why I say it's going to be a 2-horse race for sure. Nicely navigated through the central section there from Monica Bolton-Ramos. Not necessarily pushing it to the very, very limit, but you don't want to. Not at the start of a session like this. You want to build your speed up so that it's not a high tyre wear circuit. You can afford to do a few laps in one stint.
Yeah, with 15 minutes, yeah, definitely got plenty of time for a couple of laps as well. So don't need to, yeah, as you say, go out on the limit straight away. You need to be making sure you're getting yourself up to speed in what is going to be the first lap time to look at, a 36.8. So a pretty respectable time there for Ramos already. And I'm sure that's only going to improve as the session continues as well. And I wonder if they're going to do sort of a couple of laps in a row, as you say, being a bit of a shorter circuit, as White there goes 1.8 seconds off pole position at the moment in that second place, but yeah, still plenty of time to make improvements.
And there is Macy Hitter up into pole position by just 0.04 of a second. Tell me we're not going to get a race here. I doubt it massively. Jess White, like I said, up into third position, 1.9 seconds off. Fair enough, but I will say, definitely not out of the battle pack. I think we've definitely got two separated battles here between Macy Hitter and Monica Bolton-Ramos, and then between Jess White and Chloe Grant. They were very, very close in the practice session we recently finished. Look at that first sector though from Monica Bolton-Ramos, improving massively, 0.3 of a second. Of course, we know they were running towards the lower end of the 36s in the practice session that we just finished, so we know there is more time in the tank, but this is why you build yourself up slowly, corner by corner, sector by sector, lap by lap. And also, just a bit of a reminder, once this session ends, this is why rhythm is critical, once that timer hits 0, the session immediately ends and we will immediately move into the race. There is no waiting around here before we get to the action.
Certainly not. Moves pretty fast paced indeed, but also going pretty fast is Ramos on the track at the moment. Good first and second sector. Can she take back that provisional pole away from Hitter at the moment, who just did a 0.7 there on her first lap? But what we're going to see, we are going to see getting into the sort of mid 36s now. 36.5 goes back onto provisional pole position as we get Lois Millward there going off the track, 11 seconds off at the moment. But Lois was one who was using the controller, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
So a bit harder to get up to the top echelons, but obviously keeping it on the track and just getting it towards the end of the race in Silverstone was probably a good achievement from that.
I think that's the critical thing for Lois Millward. It's just trying to finish, genuinely just trying to finish right now, because you get a big old goose egg if you don't. 0 points for not finishing, and that's the critical thing. Finished, yes, a lap down, fair enough. It was a half-hour race, but I genuinely think that is an achievement to get to the end of the race under such trying issues, just based on the fact of how difficult it is to race on a controller. You can do it; it is possible. Like we had the discussion on how quite a lot of us started as Jess White runs quite far wide, running down into to T4 and then round 5. That will cost an awful lot of time, which for a decent first sector will be pretty irritating for Jess White, but it is what it is. We'll see what it is across the second sector, and there you go, lost over a second or around a second. So that, I think, is to be expected from running that far wide. But like I say, I think getting to the end of these races, that is the big achievement.
And you get sort of more comfortable with that as you obviously do more races as well. Sometimes it can be a little bit sort of, I guess, nervous when you get towards the end of the race, thinking you're actually going to sort of accomplish the goal. But with more experience, obviously, you're more confident and you have more understanding of how things run. And let's see what time White does. Doesn't improve her time, but still not too bad. Just needs to make sure getting a little bit more smooth in certain sections, and then maybe getting towards maybe half a second off the pole, which I think would be a pretty good result.
Well, here's Macy Hitter out of the final quarter to start another lap within this session. 36.7 the time on the board, looking to improve on that to secure pole position. It's a tiny margin, a narrow margin, and you'd have to say with Jess White being within a second, if she could hook up a little bit of slipstream in the final half of this session, there is certainly a lot more time in it. 3 cars within a second. Chloe Grant still yet to set a time onto the board. I'll tell you someone who's going very fast in the first sector, by the way, Monica Bolton Ramos, who's just gone 0.4 of a second faster in sector 1. So 0.3 even still over Macy Hitter. An incredible first sector from Bolton Ramos, which, to be honest, we shouldn't be too surprised by, as a couple of laps ago was 0.3 up in the opening sector of the lap.
Yeah, and the first sector is pretty much just turn 1, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So getting a good run out of there is very important. But with the low-powered cars, the straights are even longer. So any speed that you carry onto the straight is just going to multiply. Literally, as you're driving, you'll just see your delta go up and up and up, or down even. But yeah, it's certainly a difficult middle sector here, coming through the sort of the fast and flowing corners. As Hitter there goes all over the grass on the inside there, and I think that is going to be an invalidated lap. And unfortunately, he's going to have to go around again to start another lap. But yeah, just all over the grass there, turning in a little bit too early.
Well, there goes there's that improvement. Dropped a fair amount of time in the final sector, but Monica Bolton Ramos has done enough to potentially grab pole position at the moment. 36.4. Also note the improvement from Jess White as well. Did improve down to a 37.240. So a decent level of improvement there. I was thinking maybe 2 horses for this race. I'm not so sure we're not at 3, based on Jess White's pace and also continued improvement throughout this session.
Yeah, the times I think are going to come down just a little bit more as well, which is good to see. So let's see how close they can get. As you say, starting to get pretty close there, Jess White, and I think there's certainly a few more tenths in the bag.
Well, I think Monica Bolton Ramos might have this lap into the bin. Great first sector, once again improving even more, but running through T5 there, might have just lost. Yeah, see, did lose a fair amount of time in there. Chloe Grant, by the way, still yet to set a time within this session, with 5.5 minutes left to go. I believe just left the pit lane, so there is enough time for these to start basically a final stint. Remember that in this, realistically, you need 3.5 minutes to 4 minutes to do a run, including your out lap and your time lap, because again, as we've said before, once a checkered flag comes out, that is the session done. This was the sector that Monica Bolton Ramos lost a fair amount of time in the previous lap. Let's see if there is any more to gain on the table. 36.408 to beat as she heads across the line. Does improve ever so slightly, I believe, but nothing more to really sort of worry about. There's more pace in the tank, is what I'm saying.
As we come to Chloe Grant, who hasn't set a time yet. Oh, she goes off there massively on the exit of turn number 4. Coming back on the track, still has enough time to set a lap, but currently has not set a lap so far, and was showing some fairly decent pace, if I'm not mistaken, from the practice service. So I think certainly could be fighting White there for the podium, but does need to get a lap time on the board, although obviously starting in 5th in the race isn't really going to be too big of a deal, but certainly getting a bit of practice in the qualifying sessions would be good indeed. So let's see what she can do as she comes around for another lap.
I'm not necessarily sure. I wonder, it'd probably be easy to ride on board with and find out, but how this car's moving, I'm almost not necessarily sure if she's on a controller as well. Just by how it was sort of jerking up over the top of the crest coming through the exit of T8. There is potential indeed that is the case. But either way, we're showing, like I said, we're showing decent pace. Could get into the sort of 37s as we were seeing in the practice session. Goes through turn 1, did receive a message from one of our competitors from the boys race, and of course aspiring commentator Mr. Zach Sweeney saying that turn 1 on this lap is make or break.
Oh yeah, it's so important. The longest straight up to the best overtaking opportunity here, as we've seen Chloe there coming through sector 1 just before the braking zone into turn number 3, and half a second off there in that first sector. But if she can keep that going, might be able to fight White there for that 3rd place. But let's see now, coming down the hill, start picking up a load of speed actually towards this. Even though the straight's a bit shorter, you actually get a similar top speed down here into turn 4 because of the downhill nature. Oh, but just going a bit wide, same corner 2 laps in a row, and this lap is not going to be any quicker now.
Yeah, that'll be that one basically sorted. Kangaroo, by the way, I haven't taken a look. Definitely not on a controller unless it's the smoothest controller player that I've ever seen. There is wheel in there, but it's just sort of struggling to get to grips with the car in this session. Does not mean that the race is necessarily going to be over. I think Chloe Grant maybe aiming for a 4th place finish, or even same as Lois Millward, aiming to get to the checkered flag. The top 3 definitely seem like they are on very, very similar pace. Yes, I know, maybe Jess White's lap time there was one of the best laps that she's done around the circuit. Fair enough. We've all kind of had those moments in qualifying where we've improved further than we kind of expected over the qualifying session. Maybe there's more pace in the tank. Don't know what's going on within that car. But 8/10 off around this circuit, especially with 2 people ahead, it means that you are essentially a part of it. And so, fair enough. 2 minutes left on the clock, so final laps coming in within this session. And as we've seen, Monica Bolton Ramos is on that pole position. She is on a lap and is coming through the final sector, final corner right now is Bolton Ramos. We'll see if there is going to be the improvement as Ramos will cross the line. Was aiming to improve onto a, there we go, 36.174, the improvement to Monica Bolton Ramos. So there was that time added to the board, so fantastic stuff.
Yeah, very good indeed, as we're seeing Grant here coming down once again into turn number 4. Can she make it on the brakes this time and not go too wide into the gravel? Sometimes it's better to just sacrifice the odd bit here and there to make sure you get a bit of a lap time on the board, and that was much better there for this time of asking, and is going to make it to the line to finish the lap. So if Chloe Grant here can make it through sector 2 rather nicely, and then into sector 3 where the final couple of corners are, and where the all-important sort of part of the track is, because you can really lose it at the final corner here. It's such a tricky little one, but I don't think she's going to be challenging White there for that 3rd place, so it might be a 4th place finish. But in her first race of the season, it's not too bad as we come into the final 2 corners.
Yeah, around 2 seconds off in the middle sector, just dropping time and then dropping even further so in that final. Just kind of question as to where that time came from in the practice session, because there was certainly more pace within the tank. There is Chloe Grant, though, across the line, and it is 4th position indeed, a 39.528. So around about 3 and a bit seconds off of those at the top. Does seem as though it is basically confirmed. Lap times cannot come in from Macy Hitter. She's too far around the lap, will not be able to come across the line to complete it. Jess White is in the final sector, and with 10 seconds could technically improve, but I think the timing might be a little bit too close. Does seem as though Monica Bolton Ramos has the second consecutive pole position in this season as the time ticks over indeed. Great lap time from Ramos.
Yeah, great indeed, and just having that little bit of a step to Hitter as well, so maybe a bit of a pace advantage. But as we say, it's the consistency in the race, the 30-minute race that's about to come up, that needs to be a bit of an improvement for Ramos compared to a couple of weeks ago at Silverstone, as they're just coming onto the grid now. Once they're all there, the lights will be coming on and then going out for the second round of the season, and then we're going to find out who is going to come out on top.
Indeed, half an hour onto the clock. The girls' race in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports Competition UK about to get underway. Bolton Ramos, Macy Hitter the front row, and once again Macy Hitter with an absolutely terrible start, might even drop all the way back down behind Lois Millward. It's drama once again on the race starts for Macy Hitter. Does manage to keep hold of fourth position. At the lead though, Ramos, then White, then Grant on our run up towards turn 2 and through turn 3. Jess White might go on the attack very, very early doors indeed. What does Chloe Grant do in the background? They're all going to hold station. Oh, as there's the speed up, and Chloe Grant makes the huge mistake. Oh, and they've spun as well. Monica Bolton Ramos has been tapped by Jess White, and Chloe Grant's taken the lead.
Oh, Macy Hitter there getting a couple of positions back there, but getting involved as well. So Grant, after really was the one who was making the bit of a mistake there into turn 3, now has the lead, ironically, with how it's going. And Lois Millward there up into that second place, but all not for long as Hitter goes all the way around the outside. And now Bolton Ramos is trying to go past Millward as well. As we come up towards turn number 6, is getting very hectic between these girls here in the second race of the season. That was a very chaotic start, and one that was not really too expected.
Yeah, no, I think I was almost done with the idea of Macy Hitter being involved in the battle of this race victory after yet another terrible start. Someone might need to sit down and just assist with that race start and explain how to do it. No disrespect, but clearly issues in round 1, issues in round 2 once again on the race start. But now they will battle it out. Monica Bolton Ramos in the background was looking down the inside into the final corner. All were already on the attack. Might well be a little bit irritated by what happened down at turn 2, but for the very first time in this season, someone not Monica Bolton Ramos will lead a lap, and it is Chloe Grant from 4th on the grid.
Yeah, that was I'll go to maybe a little bit sort of lucky, but it's really her fault in the first place, sort of doing a bit of a chain reaction into turn number 3, and that is really sort of quite a crucial factor for this race, as Bolton Ramos has actually just lost the position there to Jess White coming up the hill as well. And this is what Bolton Ramos, this is her first sort of test of the season so far, where she's been behind and now needs to come overtake the 3 cars ahead of her if she wants to get back to that race lead. We know she's probably the fastest girl on the track at the moment, but you still need to sort of have the calmness to try and get their places back and not cause issues further. Coming down to turn 4 though, getting there down the inside, and that is one place already ticked off.
I think you're absolutely right. Composure, I think, is the watchword of the day right now that Ramos, to be fair, all of these girls really need in their own respective positions. Grant needs to composure is after, to be honest, a really difficult session in that qualifying session for Chloe Grant. Needs to compose herself, needs to realise you're in the lead of this race. Let's just do some nice clean laps at the front and wait and see what happens. Macy Hitter's not in the slipstream yet. Macy Hitter and Bolton Ramos are basically trying to focus their attention ahead and try and move back forwards. Jess White, we know, has the pace based on that qualifying session, at least to keep up with Ramos and Macy Hitter using that slipstream. Composure is critical when a racing is like this. So I think we've all, me and you, have both been in situations much akin to all sort of aspects of this style of racing. It's very tricky to remain composed when the only thing that you can basically hear is your heartbeat going absolutely mental.
and getting the old leg shakes was a thing for me back in the day. But this is the important part of I guess the learning experience as well with these types of races. When there's something on the line, a real life racing scene. Let's be honest, that is a cracking prize for these girls to be fighting over, and to be in the position where you potentially are losing it, at least in this race so far, and having to get that back and keeping yourself nice and calm, and keeping yourself not making the situation worse, because sometimes when you get in a difficult situation, as I think Grant was going off there in turn 4, as she did a few times in the qualifying session, keeping your composure there is going to be the important factor for this race. We saw Ramos go off a few times in Silverstone, just by herself, and now when coming to overtake the two girls ahead of her, needs to be making sure keeping it all nice and in line, keeping it on the track, and then seeing what happens, because there's still obviously 25 minutes to go. There's going to be plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, there's so much time to get back involved in this. Did see that Macy Hitter made a little bit of a mistake up and over the crest at T1 over the previous lap, just dropped a further sort of half second or so to Chloe Grant. I mean, to be fair, based on how things were in the previous round of the season, obviously we had 4 drivers. It was Macy Hitter, Monica Bolton-Ramos, Lois Millward, and it was Ella Wrigley who was a part of the grid on that day. Unfortunately, not a part of this round. Hopefully we'll see her back at the Autodromo Internazionale di Monza in a few weeks' time. But between this, I wasn't necessarily expecting to come into this and having a proper 4-way fight for the race victory, but this is going to turn into quite the scrap over the next 24 minutes should all of these drivers manage to keep things going. And I told you, there's the mistake from Macy Hitter, a little bit too much of that right foot on the departure of turn 3, lit up the rears. Monica Bolton-Ramos has come through. 1 second now is the gap between Monica Bolton-Ramos and Chloe Grant, your race leader.
And it was Chloe Grant going to keep it in the track this time, turn 4, all just going a bit wide. Another lap, and is Ramos going to be getting a run here actually towards turn 6? So I think it's actually Macy Hitter who's going to be a bit closer to Ramos now, as we're getting pretty much a 3-way battle for the lead now as we're coming through this middle sector. A bit difficult to sort of overtake at this point, but this is where you set up the overtake for when you get out onto that start-finish straight especially. And Chloe Grant now needs to keep it on the tracks, doing a good job so far, but Ramos is coming as we come up to the hill towards the final 2 corners. Where is Ramos going to think about a move? That you can definitely tell it is coming. It's just really, where is she going to find a way past? As wide. Over a spin. She's going into the pit lane, and so is Macy Hitter. She's lost her front wing as well, and both of those drivers are going to have to come in the pit lane, and that has given the lead back to Ramos.
Well, I think that says how difficult this racetrack really is. It can bite. Those curbs are quite large. Oh, a mistake from Macy Hitter to keep going. I don't think she realises there is a lack of the front wing element on the front end of that Formula 4 car, and unfortunately she's going to struggle around this lap, maybe not realising where the understeer is actually coming from, but evidently there is a fair amount of damage. Makes the opening corner quite nice. To be fair, in a car with as low downforce as this, you might be able to sort of get away with it. Although I do remember I was racing in a series once in cars slightly more powerful than this, but with sort of similar levels of aero, where if you knocked off the front wing you'd actually end up going faster. Definitely not the case in this scenario, but still.
Yeah, that's the thing with obviously simulation. Sometimes the physics aren't like perfect in those scenarios when you don't have obviously wings on. You just gain stupid amounts in a straight line. But yeah, hopefully she can get it back to the pit lane and continue the race from there. Because I don't think driving from now until the end of the race without a front wing is going to do the lap times any good. But looking back, so back overall now, so we've got Ramos back in the lead and White now just a couple of seconds behind, but she's sat there sort of a couple of seconds behind ever since the carnage on the first couple of laps. So I think she's potentially going to be able to fire, but Ramos, we just need to see now, is she going to romp off into the distance, or are a couple of mistakes here and there going to hinder that and then potentially have a bit of a battle later on?
Well, last round we did see all 4 of our drivers take to the checkered flag. This round certainly less so. Both Chloe Grant and Lois Millward are out of this race. They are no longer participating over the remainder of round number 2. here in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports competition UK. A bit of a shame there, especially considering the potential pace of Chloe Grant. But I mean, I think even still, even despite that mistake, I think can be a little bit proud at least to have taken the race lead. But not only that, but based on the qualifying pace of being 1 to 2 seconds off and kind of struggling a little bit to get to grips with speed, did lead quite a few laps of this race, not just the one.
Oh yeah, and also so really, leading the way as well. It wasn't like she was just caught and overtaken straight away. Did do some good laps there at the beginning, and I think definitely some good points to take away. But it's not easy. That's the thing. There's maybe some people watching you do loads of races like this all the time, maybe saying I can do a quicker lap time here and there, but it's not easy to shut when obviously you've had limited experience. Maybe not just with this simulation in particular, but just sim racing in general. It's quite difficult to step up and get going with it. So obviously these sorts of races are there to give these girls a platform to come onto. And even when we get to the boys race a bit later on, I know you're going to be seeing a few bits of action there as well. Certainly possible. But let's see how the rest of this one goes. 20 minutes to go. Ramos still leading the way. White is still there though. It's not like Ramos is going too far off in the distance. So I think White is still going to keep herself in touch for the time being.
Well, I mean, Bolton Ramos last round was leading by, I think it was around 10 seconds at 1 point during the race, courtesy of Macy Hitter having, again, that terrible start, got stuck behind Ella Wrigley for the opening lap and was kind of struggling to find her way past. Did eventually get past running through the exit of the Chapel curve at Silverstone. Eventually got back up in that second position and started setting some decent lap times, but Bolton Ramos was well in control. The reason why I say this is because the race victory time was around about 4.5 seconds for Monica Bolton Ramos, which you can then say that she's lost basically 5.5 to 6 seconds in the final moment of that race. And it did come down to various issues of sort of losing the car a little bit, the braking zone, particularly on the running down into Brooklands. Basically just opened up the corner maybe a little bit too much, took a bit too much to the grass on the right hand side and went straight on. Those kind of mistakes, those are what we were speaking about earlier on in this broadcast. Those types of mistakes are critical to avoid, especially when you've got someone like Jess White not that far behind. Almost for an entertainment value though. We're kind of sat here being like, go on, just go on, make a little bit of mistake.
It is always one of those things though where at least I find myself where it's always those smaller mistakes that add up. Like if you just did one spin in a race where you lost maybe 5 seconds, that would always be less than if you just did all these little mistakes here and there, just running wide here and there, locking up. They all add up over the course of race, and especially in a 30-minute race, that can add up tremendously. But unfortunately for Bolton Ramos, there was actually multiple big ones that also happened back at Silverstone. And you even saw with Grant as well, just going a bit wide in turn 4. We saw on the previous lap, we saw the dust being kicked up and then the lap later going off as she did in the qualifying session as well. And those sorts of ones really hinder your race because you can gain back a few seconds here and there, but if you lose 20 odd seconds, you can't really gain that back too easily just on raw pace. So keeping it consistent at the front is really the goal of what to do, even if you're going to be a couple of tenths a lap slower.
Yeah, looking to secure essentially another 26 points from the evening's entertainment. That is the maximum amount of points that you can set across the evening of racing. Monica Bolton Ramos did that at Silverstone with 26 points, 25 for the race victory, of course, and then 1 for scoring the fastest lap of the event. Obviously, a bit of a reminder as to how the points work, because I think Jess White said, "Oh no, she's just a bit further back than I expected." I thought she had a bit of an issue there down at turn number 5, but. Points. It's a point structure which I'm pretty sure you'll be fairly familiar with. 25 for a race victory, 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 and 1, if I remember correctly. The sort of standard scoring format that we're kind of used to when it comes to open wheel competition. I mean, fair enough, obviously rewards victories. I think in this year, Monica Bolton Ramos is pretty in control. The goal of this competition isn't necessarily to win this championship here and now. It's to get yourself in the top 16 in both the boys and the girls categories, and then go and take part in the final, which we don't know the track of, by the way, which I think is a fantastic idea. Love the idea that we have no idea what we're racing, and I kind of hope they keep that a secret, until qualifying. No, maybe a bit too far, but later.
Yeah, I think they probably will. It just says a secret track on the calendar for that race there in Bolton, which is going to be a great experience. The sort of LAN events, as we call them, are always a good one to see. So hopefully there's obviously a nice amount of drivers getting there and getting themselves entered in, potentially winning the seat in real life racing, which is obviously the end goal, and can really sort of explode someone's career in a good way and really bump them up. As I'm just seeing Macy Hitter still driving without the front wing, losing obviously a few seconds a lap. But I just wonder sort of what the lap time difference is. Just looking at the lap times, maybe sort of 4 seconds a lap slower. So enough that you would probably warrant a pit stop by the time you get to the end of the race.
Yeah, last lap time from Macy Hitter was a 41.3. That could just sound like a number. You can see the fastest lap that she's done over the race being a 38.0. Race leader, 37.1. So like you say, about 4 seconds slower. And unfortunately, Jess White running around about 6 or 7 tenths slower than race leader Bolton Ramos. And I think that gap is starting to get a little bit worse. As well as the gap for the race lead is growing fairly substantially.
Yeah, this is when the consistency is also a factor for Jess White as well, trying to remain there at the sort of the sharp end of the field and keeping those lap times down. So the sort of 37s that you're seeing, if you could keep in those 37s for the whole race, you're going to be doing yourself a world of good, because as I said, all those little seconds here and there of mistakes that you make, they really do add up. So keeping yourself in that sort of time frame is looking pretty good. As on the last lap, Just White obviously lost a couple of seconds, but back down in the 40s. So yeah, just losing a bit of time there. Yeah,
so it was a 1 minute 40.7, which wasn't ideal, especially considering Monica Bolton Ramos decided it was a good idea to start setting a 36, a 1 minute 36.8. So absolutely firing in a fantastic time there was Bolton Ramos. To go back to your point, by the way, on LAN events, and I was bringing it up because Monica Bolton Ramos and obviously Bolton, where our finale is to take place. A bit of a stretch, but fair enough. Of course, LAN events in sim racing and esports, totally different kettle of fish. Anyone who's kind of struggled in an event like this online where you're kind of comfortable, always try and give it, if you have the opportunity to go to some form of live event of what we classify as a LAN event, of course, with people going and taking part all on the same network, a local area network, just in case, because there's some young people watching and they might know what LAN means. Those are great because they kind of separate drivers in forms of quality and adaptability, which we don't typically see online when you're racing on your own setup that you're used to racing 5 nights a week. Yeah, that is probably the biggest factor for the LAN events as well, because we've talked about this from a commentary side of it as well. If you're sort of at an event, you sort of feel a little bit more sort of involved with the event, and it can sort of potentially make you perform better. But in terms of the driving side, obviously at home you can have your own rig, your own wheel, your own pedals. You can have it all set up exactly how you want it. You can have your own screen, the seat position, all this sort of stuff can be tailored to you, and over the hours of practice you make it what you like and what you're comfortable with. And then you go to somewhere, and then maybe you're given the steering wheel and the pedals, and you don't really have much time to set it up, and you've got to get on the ball quickly. It can be quite a lot different, and having to perform there with things that you're not used to, with obstacles in your way, is obviously a difficult situation to be in. And those that can adapt quickly to that, I think, are probably better ones to succeed. And also looking obviously to win a seat in real life, I think the real life side of it as well is important, to have that adaptability. Yeah, and that's exactly. If you kind of win sat at home, that's all well and good. I think that's why you'd want it to be a live final. You want people to be out of their comfort zone. And in sim racing terms, I don't think people necessarily realise how much that is a bit of a driver. Whether you've been round a mate's house and played on their wheel and kind of seen, it's a little bit different, but it's because it's a different wheel. I once did a live final in 2018. Went to Germany, went to the Nürburgring and took part, as Macy Hitter continues without a front wing. I mean, at least the times are at least it's consistent. So fair enough. Obviously losing around about 3 seconds lap. But yeah, went to the Nürburgring to do a live final. Now I raced at home at the time on a Logitech G27, and the wheels to qualify for this event at this event were Logitech G27, which drove completely differently to how mine was set up, because I set mine up in a way that I'm comfortable and how I want it. And then again, seating position, everything. The fact that you put in resistors and stuff in the brake pedal to make the brake stiffer and stuff. Yeah, to obviously if you don't have load cells and whatever, those kind of things, all those things that make your rig your setup. You can't just copy and paste and just bring to a LAN event unless you decide to take a BMW on a big drive all the way around Europe, Cam.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what I did as well. I've been around the Nürburgring. I haven't been inside the convention center like you have, but well, also driving up to the one in Denmark as well.
Yeah, that was the one I was alluding to.
Sorry. That one was because it was so far. Obviously, we took all our equipment because it was so far. We rented a rig off someone that we knew, and again, we just spent the first few hours of the practice session just getting the rig set up and moving the monitor, moving the seats, and drilling holes for new pedals and all this sort of stuff. Because fortunately, we had the ability to do that. But that was certainly a fun trip indeed, and hopefully getting up to Bolton a bit later on in a couple of months' time is going to be a possibility, because I think that's going to be a great experience just to sort of get involved in the atmosphere of that and just see what can happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the simulators they're going to be using there when they're going into wheel-to-wheel combat, but I do know one of the people that helps run the simulator as well on the university course, which is kind of one of the main things here at Bolton University. One Mr. Dan Kell, who is teammates and such with myself. We've raced for goodness knows how long, but takes part, goes to university in motorsport engineering there, and they've got a pretty decent simulator there. Obviously, the standard, the whole triple screens and stuff, built inside of I can't remember whose old copy it was. I don't remember whose old copy it was. I was going to take a wild guess, but I don't remember, so I won't take a wild guess. But it's built inside of an old cockpit of a race car. Those kind of things, that's sick. That's where you're basically playing with someone else's money. It was Chris. I'm pretty sure it was Chris Tadulu, actually. I'm going to go with that. I think it was Adam Christodoulou's old cockpit. I'm pretty sure he went there and had a go on it. But when you're playing with someone else's money, you can then just sort of get whatever you want, all the bells and whistles. Get yourself a massive ultra wide, for example. People like me, we have to live with a single. Bog standard.
Yeah, that is actually something that's quite a good point. So, I mean, might as well say it. So recently, I bought an ultra wide monitor. So it's effectively, for those who don't know, it's effectively like two monitors, like side by side, but in one screen. So there's no sort of bezel or anything in the middle, and it's quite slight, but it also makes a big difference just having that extra width. So obviously you could have triples, which would be even more, but just this ultra wide itself, just having that extra visibility when driving. So especially when you go into a hairpin, you can sort of look around the corner. It's quite an improvement, I have to say. A lot of money though, so be wise if you're investing in it. But I've been doing this for long enough. I treated myself to it. But certainly things like that are to be looked at in the future. But the cool thing with sim racing is you can come in at a much cheaper end. There are a lot of cheap options for things like the steering wheels, things like the wheels, or like Lewis Millward here using a controller as well. You can get yourself involved with. So it's not just about spending all the big money on the rigs as we're talking about. You can also do it on a lot more of a budget, because I mean I've still just got an IKEA desk that I've drilled holes in and mounted my wheel to it. Nothing special in that regard. So you can certainly get in at the lower end of the budget as well.
Yeah, like I say, sim racing is wide open. When you have competitions like this, hey, maybe even the entry to real world motorsport becomes even more open. Of course, again, the prize they're fighting for, once they've gone to Bolton, once they've gone to the live final to battle it all out, they're fighting for the prize of course. And I've said this is actually a bigger prize than maybe it says. Everyone's obviously talking about the fantastic idea of the racing seat in real life in the British Formula 4 Championship, which is an unbelievable prize to have an entry onto the 2023 British MSA Formula 4 grid. But also, it's the professional training, which I think that will make such an unbelievable difference. That's what's there to prepare you for the season. But those kind of prizes, honestly, those are things which really do make a difference. And it's prizes like that which are starting to really push sim racing forward, especially when we're searching for young talent in sim racing, of which there is so much.
And what you need really is to have the support and the backing of different companies and sponsors, and obviously, ROKiT here getting involved with the real life F4 championship, then coming on board, with an esports championship as well. Companies like that is what is going to push forward these things, giving the awareness and the availability to competitions like this, and just having the opportunity. That's really what it is, just having the opportunity there, because out of all of the different types of games, simulations, VR, all that sort of stuff, sim racing is like the closest you can get. You're literally driving, for those who have wheels and pedals, you're literally driving with pedals, with wheels, with the sort of visuals in the same seat position as you would in real life. With the sort of the football games and the shooters using controllers, it's not the exact same as if you were holding a gun in real life, or if you were playing football in real life. For instance, this, you're literally doing exactly that. The only difference is obviously the sort of the G-forces, and as you say, the training and that side of it is obviously quite an important factor for that. But for the base skill, you're pretty much doing the same thing.
But that's why we're in such a beautiful scenario with sim racing as it is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. G-force and stuff, you're not being thrown around inside the car. You don't really understand what's happening. You have to take the car as is from what your hands are telling you that the car's doing. Obviously you're in a motion rig, but still some of those can be a little sort of obviously separated from reality and how it's delivering the sensors. It's not quite the same. It's not one-to-one. Obviously in a real racing car, you don't get as much feedback from the wheel as we do in sim racing. You get most of it through your body as to what the car's actually doing. But that aside, the actual, like you say, the skills, how you have to balance your feet, where you have to find the braking point, how you're judging going around a corner quickly, and how to learn to go faster, those skills are all sort of represented. And that's why sim racing holds this place of, especially in future, I think we're genuinely going to find a lot of young talent in real life that are good, that have come through the ranks in sim racing, and why this will be a stepping stone as well. It's not. I don't think it's ever going to be like, oh, you've only been a sim racer and now you're now in the real life. You still need that real world experience of taking part in karting, of taking part in some junior formula, which is kind of the requirement and necessity now, just to actually get a grip as to how it is. It would kind of be no use throwing someone with years of sim racing experience into a Formula E car even. And I know that from genuine knowledge of sim racers who have jumped into that style of vehicle and then tried to understand it. If you've only got sim racing experience, it's quite hard. Meanwhile, looking at drivers like we've commentated on before and spoken to, and such, Rudy Van Buren, who won the McLaren Shadow Project. World's Fastest Game, also Shadow Project. Whoops. Got a simulated drive at McLaren, but he had karting experience and stuff prior to it, and that's what kind of made him understand how the real world works. So we're kind of in an odd transition period where we're seeing both sides of it.
Yeah, we certainly are, and there's loads of other people to be named as well, such as James Baldwin, well, another world fastest gamer. He I actually did a couple of karting races against him a couple of years ago. He was much better than me, but he's also obviously very quick in the sim. He's got really involved with that with Veloce, and then obviously racing in British GT, winning races in British GT as well, and just other opportunities opening up for him, and it's just a really great example of what can happen. But obviously he's had some experience in the real world side of it first as well, so I think that obviously does help. But I'm not sure of his background actually, but just one that was quite recently is Lucas Blakely, F1 Esports. Goes and beats Sebastian Vettel on the snow in a completely sort of random one-off event in Race of Champions, and beats a F1 champion. You still got to have some level of skill to do that, even if it's not going to ever maybe get to F1 or whatever, but to still be in that situation and be competitive, you've got to have something, because otherwise, you're just going to be, seconds off the pace, as we've seen, with some people who are maybe struggling a little bit.
No, Zach Sweeney's a bit of a James Baldwin fan, because well, why not? And I think it was winning on debut. Was James Baldwin in British GT. But yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I think there's another way as well that you can kind of look at it as the translation. By the way, with 1 minute and 30 seconds left, we are on the penultimate lap. Bolton Ramos coming around turn number 5. But do remember, of course, it goes the other way. And I think it kind of shows a lot more as well that a lot of the real world pros that are very, very good take part in sim racing, and weirdly enough are very, very good because the skills kind of similar. If you get a footballer to play on FIFA and whatnot, are they going to be as good at that as they are at playing football in real life? Well, probably not. Because it's like you say, it's not the same skill. Whereas Max Verstappen comes into sim racing and genuinely starts to compete by grabbing pole position in massive leagues, by dominating in 12-hour races at certain Australian circuits and such. That there is that translation both ways.
Certainly is. I think Verstappen is a really good one because obviously he's arguably fastest guy in the world in the real life side of things as well, like unbelievably quick in a Formula 1 car. But then he comes to sim racing and he's also one of the fastest guys I've seen in sim racing. So he's always at the top of the races. So that's just an example of someone who is really on top of the game with just the driving talent and driving ability. And obviously, as we say, it doesn't translate exactly, but it's certainly a good benchmark of getting to learn how someone can cope in those sorts of situations. And I think competition like this, where the prize is literally, as you say, a real life seat, real life training, that sort of things, getting people prepared is a really good opportunity for one of these girls to win. And at the moment, it looks like it is Monica Bolton Ramos who is going to be getting a second win in 2 races.
Yeah, looking to secure a very comfortable 52 points, and also closest rival in the championship, Macy Hitter. After that issue, not going to take victory here today, not even going to finish second, just 15 points. Macy Hitter looks like she's going to be grabbing a bit later on during this race. Big drama it was indeed. We had Chloe Grant leading for quite a large portion of this race in the early stages, but the drama just built and built and built, and coming around this point in the racetrack, it all exploded, and Monica Bolton Ramos took the race lead and hasn't looked back. She departs the final corner and wins the second race in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports competition UK. A fantastic race win over her in the girls race, second one in a row. Jess White, those series debutante, going to come through the final couple of corners to grab second position. Macy Hitter balancing her way around this race circuit with no front wing. She'll be able to comfortably take third position, even if she does retire. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I don't think there's going to be any points dished out to Chloe Grant or Lois Millward, which is pretty bad. This is why you need to get to the end of these races. But of course, that drama, those big crashes, is what dropped them out of it.
Yeah, fortunately, there is the drop rounds. So at least for those girls, they have the potential to drop. Is it 2 rounds out of the 5? Yeah, so only your best 3 results count. So they still got plenty of time, and the qualifications are open for Monza for the 3rd race. So if you want to get yourself involved and get yourself on the grid, then obviously check out the competition pages of the RaceRoom gaming website.
And you can head to racingstar.com as well to find out any information on the championship. All of it is held there. All of it is held also on the RaceRoom, like I say, in the competitions section. Should be quite obvious once you've gone on. It's free to download as well, going through Steam to get you involved in this competition, which is also free to enter as well. We've got the boys' race coming up. You've got our finishers on the grid there. Monica Bolton Ramos, Jess White, Macy Hitter, and then, of course, the retirements of Chloe Grant and Lois Millward. Again, fastest lap going to Monica Bolton Ramos, so 26 points to her. Boys race coming up. We'll reset everything. We'll get another half-hour race ready. We'll get another 15-minute qualifying ready just after this.
This is not only a racing simulator. This is a simulator with 100% Formula One feeling. Made of carbon, it moves over 3 axes and lets you feel every bump, curb and curve on your ride. The belts press you into the seat when you brake and accelerate. You get the G-forces up close. Real brake and accelerator pedals, as well as an original Formula One steering wheel, complete the driving experience. Welcome to Racing Unleashed.
Employability is a critical aspect of the course. We make sure we maintain employment links, we give placement opportunities, there's opportunities with race teams. We also make sure we embed core skills needed for life in industry. The NCME embodies something called project-based learning. So what we do is we build on engineering fundamentals in the first year, and then we embody a real-life industrial scale project in the second year, and you'll design and develop your own race vehicle. That's pretty unique.
I chose Bolton because they have a good variety of courses on the engineering department.
This facility, brand new facility, is fantastic. We have a brand new workshop, we have brand new computing equipment upstairs.
The lectures are really helpful, they're really easy to understand, and if you don't understand something, they'll change the method of teaching so that you do understand it.
Absolutely brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The amount of support is just unbelievable, and I think because there's not a lot of students in one class, so you kind of get this more personal relationship with teachers, and it's fantastic.
The best element for me is the fact that we get a lot of outside work, so we do a lot of track work and work experience, and internships are available, quite a wide range for this course.
Has to be, without a doubt, the British Rallycross. That was my first proper experience of motorsport, hands-on in a team environment, and to be able to take that from spanners at the very beginning of the season all the way up to managing data for the finale where we won in incredible circumstances. It was just a fantastic achievement and a fantastic start to my motorsport career.
Well, Monica Bolton Ramis then victorious once again in the girls' race. The boys' race will be up in a few moments, but a reminder, you yourselves can qualify for the championship as well. It is open for the next round. You can see it on your screen there as we'll head to the Autodromo Internazionale de Monza just at the start of March. The race is on the 5th of March, but the qualifying will run up until the 1st of March. If you want to enter, you must be a UK resident and between the ages of 14 and 15 to participate. Of course, all of the information is on the leaderboards as well. You can find it all there. It's all on the rules on the right-hand side as well as at racingstar.com. So head your way over there to go and get qualified, because it's certainly worth being on either of the grids. If girl, boy, go and take part. You know, for one, we want the action. We want to see everything battling out on track. And based on how things were in the first round, Cam, especially in this boys' race, it was absolutely enthralling.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I remember Zach Sweeney getting through onto the podium in the final couple of corners as well. So it could all happen even up to the very final corner, which is what we want to see. And as you say, qualifying already open, and with the drop round situation, if you join and get yourself qualified for the next race, you can still get yourself into the top 16 overall with the final 3 races. So still plenty of time to get yourself involved. And as we're saying, it's free of charge, so might as well give it a go.
Why not? Absolutely, why not? We're obviously, just to let you know, they are in the qualifying at the moment. We'll go through into the, in practice at the moment, correction, roll back a little bit. We'll be going into qualifying in a few moments' time. Once again, it'll be a 15-minute session before just past 20 minutes past the hour. We'll be rolling our way into yet another half an hour race. And as I said, last round was pretty spectacular. It was Dylan Warren who was victorious, and so in that sense leads the championship. And like you say, when it comes to that kind of stuff in around a track like this, in a car like this, it kind of puts a target on your back. And we saw how the racing was through that girls' race in the early stages around here at the Red Bull Ring. it opens you up, and if you have a target on your back, well, you're going to be under a lot of fire around here.
Yeah, certainly are. This slipstream here, especially with multiple cars in a line, is going to be pretty crazy. And definitely the sort of into the kink of turn 2, then into the braking zone of turn 3. There's going to be a lot of action up there at the highest point of the track, I'm sure. And the guys are going to be giving us some great entertainment this evening with, once again, same format of the qualifying, then the 30-minute race, so plenty of time for the action to happen. And something that I just ran from last race was Bacchini. He had did he have a sort of a disconnection or something after being second on the grid? So he's someone who's sort of a little bit on catch up in that regard, getting back to the front, as he wasn't really involved in the racing too much. So yeah, I think it's going to be a great race, and hopefully the guys can give us some great action once again.
Obviously, the same car as in the previous race, 160 brake horsepower, 570 kilos, very, very light, and we saw it causing issues up and over the curves around this circuit. I do get the feeling that we are going to see more of that throughout qualifying and, of course, the race. The standings in the Boys' Championship, of course, again, it's just the race results from the previous race, and as we said, it's 25, 18, 15, 12, 10, 8, 6, 4, 2 and 1. The standard top 10 points that we expect from this style of stuff, but obviously one bonus point for the fastest lap going the way of Dylan Warren, who was fairly dominant throughout the running of that race. Liam McNeely was out basically by himself. Final lap move from Zach Sweeney on Theo Mercuris, running through Magus, Beckers and Chappell, and Will Young was sat there thinking, how do I pick up the pieces from this? And unfortunately wasn't able to. Driver list though for today, of course, we are going to see a lot of these names back out on the racetrack. We are going to see the likes of Dylan Warren. We are going to see Zach Sweeney. I believe it was Theo Mercuris, it was indeed, there you go, who topped the pre-qualifying coming into this. Of course, we know Jean-Paul Lavaggi, very popular amongst our viewers over in the previous race. You can see Kai Bacchini there down in 8th position, struggling a little bit more for pace around here, but that's because it was so tight indeed around here. It was genuinely, I think it was like 3-4 tenths of a second separating most of the grid that you can see on your screen. It was super tight. That's what we expect around Austria.
Oh, certainly. And you see down there, P18, Liam McNeely, he finished second last time, but only just got in the qualifications for this time. So just showing you how close the lap times can be around this track. Not too many corners to mention, but they are all so important, and they're all quite irregular compared to some other tracks as well. It's got quite a lot of quirks. Has the Red Bull Ring, and as we get into the qualifying session, I think we're going to see some great action and some great slipstream. As you see, all the cars here coming out for their outlaps, and we're going to see some great action here, I think, even just in this qualifying session before we get to the race.
Did got Adam Alderton on screen. Some drivers, teams, fans of sim racing might recognise Adam Alderton's name. I did notice that Jakob Raffos was in chat a little bit earlier, young talent himself, Norwegian kid. Those two do a lot of rallycross, a lot of rallycross. So when it comes to how difficult we've seen the car be to race around here, I'm sure Adam Alderton might be a little bit on top of how difficult a car might be. Obviously, the rallycross happening not necessarily on this platform, elsewhere in sim racing, but still, I've always said if you want to be a complete driver, you take part in as much different styles of racing as you possibly can to basically complete the formula of your own driving experience. I think one thing we'll see more so in the boys session than we did in the girls, slipstream is king. They will be searching for it.
Yeah, look at that little 3-car train there to start. Well, it's more than that, actually. Look how close they are. And if you're a little bit further back, maybe sort of the second, third car back in one of these trains where you're not too far, only sort of half a second maybe off the car ahead as someone goes off massively in the background there, you're going to be, getting a huge, massive slipstream that will literally be tenths of a second, which could be so important with how close the times can be here.
Yeah, apparently it's very, very aggressive when you're within half a second, which kind of makes sense. But with these cars not spitting out the most amount of downforce, if you're within that, you're all well and good. Once you start stepping outside of the half second towards closer to the 1 second mark, this does become a little bit harder to use the slipstream to your advantage. First sector though from Theo Mercuris, about a tenth quicker than the first sector that we saw Monica Bolton-Ramos use to take pole position in the girls' race. I think it was around about 22.4. I think he did do a 22.3. A little bit of slipstream just ahead. That is Joe McLean just directly ahead of Theo Mercuris. Car directly in tow is Joe Hayes Jr. One of the drivers that might actually be, no, it's Joe Hedge. I think Fabian Ballon's also in sort of that group. We are seeing these trains. Saw the grey car in the foreground just coming through the shot. That is the car that Dylan Warren is in. And just a reminder, the numbers that they are racing in are the numbers that they qualified in the pre-qualifying. That is why Theo Mercurius is in the 0-1 car. Going to get a nice little bit of slipstream toward the line as well.
And let's just see what they can do, because obviously slipstream now, but everything is on the line. Are we going to see some of the fastest times that we've had, as we're going to see a 34.5 there to put Mercurius up into the provisional pole position, half a second quicker than some of the other drivers coming in now. Alderton there 4/10 off, as actually McNeely takes away the provisional pole with a 0.68, just 23 thousandths quicker. As look at this slipstream from Mercurius up the inside, racing on a quali lap effectively. But if he does this right, it might actually be effectively quicker. But we're seeing there was McGlade there getting out of it. But I do wonder if Mercurius is going to be able to hold this speed, because he gained a 10th in that first sector into the 21s, 21.9 in that first sector. But he might have lost quite a lot of time in turn 3.
Yeah, an absolutely superb first sector, but I think you're absolutely right. Was in a little bit too deep, was struggling a little bit as well, and I think mounted the sausage curb on the left-hand side as you're trying to accelerate on the departure of turn 3. Zach Sweeney gets up into 3rd position, the position that Sweeney finished in the previous. I think he qualified around about 7th back in Silverstone. First sector, good. 2nd sector, good. Theo Mercurius did not lose that much time within that 2nd sector. This could be an absolutely banging lap from Mercurius.
Yeah, this is looking like it's going to be great. Hasn't got anyone to actually distract him at this part of the track, which is good, because obviously the slipstream in the straights turns into dirty air and just visual references being lost when you get into the corners. So this might actually work out pretty well for him as he now comes up towards the line. Quite a long run to the line here, actually, which could see some last corner overtakes. Let's see where he's going to put himself as Warren jumps up there towards provisional pole, but it's going to be Mercurius by only 10 thousandths of a second, goes back to the top.
Yeah, it was Dylan Warren who was on pole position last round by 0.2 of a second over Kai Bacchini. Look at that from Oliver Bunn, though, using slipstream galore and taking pole position. I think that might have been with the assistance of Adam Alderton, who I believe is the car directly ahead. That is absolutely superb from Oliver Bunn. Qualified in 7th position at last round, did Bunn. That's slightly better.
Yeah, that is looking really good indeed. Just showing you how the slipstream can be good around here, but it's all sort of part of the strategy, going out at the right time, getting yourself behind someone that you know is really going to pull you along, because you don't want to go behind a slow person, because then they're just going to slow down in the corners. You want to go behind someone who's just maybe the same speed or just a little bit quicker than you, and then they're just going to pull you along. As we see Bacchini here coming up towards turn number 1, a bit off in sector 1, but I didn't get quite as much of a slipstream, it looked like, in that sort of minty coloured car. Now coming into sector 2, and just look how close the times are as well, looking really good. 2 seconds covered all of the cars last time, and we're only at 1.7 this track.
Nice little bit of assistance as well from Zach Sweeney directly behind in that dark blue car, which I do very much like. Zach Sweeney's got into some good luck with the positions that he's pre-qualified in this. Did like the British Racing green colour that Jack Badger is driving in this time. Zach Sweeney in that blue, absolutely, like I said, fantastic. Little bit of assistance, obviously not really working as a team, but a lot of these drivers are communicating. They are having a little bit of a chat. They are in each other's ears, talking through this, how they are with the race. They were even chatting last round to Monica Bolton-Ramos as she was in the girls' race. Sort of keeping an eye on things and having a bit of a laugh and sort of growing as a group. And like I say, a lot of these drivers have been practicing together, which I think has been very, very interesting. But it's nice to see that they're all working together in this qualifying session as well. Bradfield moves up inside the top 10, qualified 15th last round, up into 17th this round, as let's see if there is going to be the improvement from Kai Bacchini. The answer to that question is a very solid no.
Yeah, just not quite completing the lap as he would have liked. But here, Zach Sweeney comes back for the return of the slipstream. And as you say, the drivers are potentially working a little bit together here and there. But that's obviously a good thing. The camaraderie between drivers is always good. And making sure you're not having sort of enemies off the track that, obviously might translate to something on the track. And it's something that you do want to avoid. Zach Sweeney here really getting pulled around by Bacchini, who's actually gone off the screen. So I guess he's sort of gone back to the pit lane or something like that. But Sweeney now's got it all to do himself, coming through the rest of Sector 2. And it's going to be a pretty clean lap ahead of him. So hopefully he can make a bit of an improvement, because he's dropped down to 11th place at the moment, or make that 12.
Yeah, I don't think that's as Clifford. Fantastic lap time from Nathan Clifford to jump up inside the top 5. I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing in the world to have clear air gifted to you. I think that was a smash of the escape key from Kai Bacchini. As we look at Liam McNeely, struggled maybe to get through in the pre-qualifying, but obviously plenty quick enough for this evening's action. Goes up into 4th position at the moment. The driver that finished 2nd place last time out, Silverstone, qualified in 3rd and is within 1/10 of a second of our surprise pole sitter at the moment, Oliver Bunn. Although saying that, was 3rd in the pre-qualifier was Bunn, so maybe it's not necessarily the largest surprise in the world.
Yeah, but these times are just so close. Any one of these drivers could really jump up here and there. I think that was Valaji getting up into that 6th place as well. So the drivers just getting so close indeed, as Zach Sweeney actually jumped up into 7th place on that lap that we were following a few moments ago as well. So drivers all making a change. And is that actually for P11, P12, is that an equal lap time between Edge and O'Sullivan? I think it is.
There it is.
All the way to the 1,000th of a second, just showing you how close it can get.
Yeah, you want to see some great liveries. The colour that Liam O'Sullivan's driving in, that's certainly piercing, I think, is the way. It is quite a pink. There it is. Anyone who wants to wake up on this Saturday evening, that will assist in this. I mean, to be fair, I've always said, and this is why, I mean, I don't know if you ever realise when I'm driving around, I've got a mighty green front splitter.
Yes.
The reason is so that people can see me coming down there, like firing in from 3.5 kilometres back down the inside. Not a bad idea to have a bright car.
Yeah, it sort of might put you off as well in the mirrors. If you see someone go for a little bit of a dive, you just see this colour flashing behind you. It's always a bit of an advantage. But as you say, obviously the drivers getting it. Drivers getting their liveries based on their qualifying or pre-qualifying positions, as we're getting in towards the final 5 minutes now, and just a 1/10 of a second separating the top 4, and really just very close overall, even a half a second back to the top 10, and a little bit of slipstream here and there could really alter these positions for the drivers, as they've only got really sort of 2 laps left if they want to make an improvement.
Like you say, super tight indeed between the top lot. Mercuris has just come over to increase the gaps between the top 5. It was a 10th between basically the lot of them. Mercuris said, no thank you, don't fancy any of that one there, me lads. 34.355 slaps it up onto pole position with 4 minutes left in this session. A reminder for those of you jumping in into this broadcast right now, once the session is over in 4 minutes time, no time to finish your final laps, it will move straight over into a half-hour race once 4 minutes is completed in this session, once we reach that checkered flag. So realistically, we're seeing the final runs begin as Dylan Warren, by 6,000ths of a second, as Nathan Clifford jumped up into P3 with a fantastic lap. It was P2 very briefly, but it was Dylan Warren with yet another sensational lap time to slap it onto pole position. This is not done yet.
Certainly isn't, and that car ahead of him was actually Nathan Clifford as well, so they both set amazing lap times, and I think Warren just getting pulled along a little bit by Clifford, and that's the perfect example as we're seeing a 3-way battle into turn 1. This is qualifying session, boys. The race is in a few minutes, as McNeely trying to get a huge slipstream as we come up the hill towards turn number 2, and if he times this right, he might be able to get a slipstream off the car just ahead of him, which I think is Luke Mould there, as we're battling side by side into turn 3 on their qualifying lap. Purple first sector for McNeely, and looking pretty good, but just needs to not get distracted by these cars around him in the second sector.
I don't think that was too bad. I think you're absolutely right. Oh, it's Mercurius. Mercurius once again, 9,000 a second. We've almost doubled the gap that it was. 9,000 a second that Mercurius grabs that pole position. I think you're right, it's Luke Mole. Obviously, we're focused on McNeely here. I believe it's Marcus Luzio who is directly behind with Zach Sweeney just in tow of the rest of the group. And I believe just behind that, it might be Justin Nowak in the car directly behind. Obviously a tight little gaggle, but anyone picking up slipstream just at the right time here is looking for a big improvement. You improve by half a tenth of a second, you are gaining positions. There is Theo Mercurius. What slipstream do you need? Absolutely none.
Yeah, that's a great time if you really didn't have slipstream, because people, as you say, they're just fighting for these last couple of tenths, and Theo goes out and does it all by himself. Certainly a difficult skill indeed, and I think he's going to have enough time, maybe just about, actually maybe not, to get around for another lap with 1 minute 34, as you say, session ending right when it gets to 0, as Bun there going up to that 4th place for now, and it's getting pretty close between these drivers. Their last chance coming up right now.
Yeah, this is the last laps for them. You can see Zach Sweeney in the tow of Marcus Luzio might need to make a move down into turn 3 if there's any aspirations of qualifying higher than 8th position. There is the move down the inside. There is the purple first sector as well. Squeezing Luzio out, a little bit naughty. Luzio still on laps himself. You can't be doing that. That would not be looked at too fondly by race direction, but either way, has cleared for the position, is in 8th spot. You kind of got to make those decisions in qualifying. You've got to really go for it. You are challenging for pole. Luke Mold still ahead, might provide slipstream in the final moments of this lap.
Yeah, this is riveting stuff just in this qualifying session, really fighting for every last thousandth of a second even as we come into the final minute now. This is going to be the final lap times coming for these drivers. Zach Sweeney there losing some time in that middle sector. As you say, it's all good getting the slipstream, but if you catch up to them, you have to overtake them. You're really just going to be losing lap times, where, as we're saying, every literally thousandth of a second is counting. Coming into the final 2 corners now of the session, who is going to be making an improvement on their final laps? Are we going to be seeing some changes of position?
Well, Dylan Warren, done with the session. Nathan Clifford, basically done with the session. These final times coming in, there is still 15 seconds left. We still might see some improvements late on. 10 seconds left to go in the session. Improvements coming in ever so slightly, but nothing too major. I think that might well be most of the contingent done here. And Theo Mercurius really had to work for that one, but proper Moto3 style, just went out, did it by himself, grabbed the pole position anyway.
Yeah, it is funny when that happens. Everyone's fighting for a slipstream and then one guy comes along and he goes quicker than the rest of you. But that is just how it goes. Sometimes as we get to the end of this qualifying session, we'll go to the race and we'll see who is going to come out on top. As we're saying, Dylan Warren getting the pole position and race victory last time out. Liam McNeely getting on the podium alongside Zach Sweeney as well. But who is going to get on it this time as we come to the second round of the season?
Well, it is time to get ready to go racing once more in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports competition. UK, Lewis McGlade, Cameron Rodger in the commentary booth for yet another half an hour of fantastic action here indeed. And if you are enjoying what you're watching, a reminder that qualifying is open until the 1st of March for the next round of the Autodrome Internazionale di Monza. It must be a UK resident and between the ages of 14 and 15 to participate. But please do, because this is absolutely fantastic. Need to see some more drivers on this grid because it is superb. 20 cars take to it. Our top qualifiers rolling through that pre-qualifying session to see who is going to take part. And then, of course, our qualifying session, which saw Theo Mercurius and Dylan Warren get on to the front row. Who's coming up on top here in Austria? This is going to be a strategic game indeed. Lights are on and we are underway in the Styrian Mountains, and once again decent start from our pole sitter of Theo Mercurius, but it is the inside line that fortunes Dylan Warren, who's just going to clip that apex nicely. Takes the race lead, there's Dylan Warren, but watch this gaggle behind as everyone just tries to duck, dive, weave, switch for the slipstream. Saw Zach Sweeney getting into the slipstream of Kai Bacchini. 2 different trains. This is proper Daytona style, boys. Oliver Bunn in the slipstream of Theo Mercurius. Watch this. This is where the drama happened in the girls' race. Is it going to happen in the boys? Clean through from Warren, Mercurius, Clifford, Bunn. Clifford's actually got past Bunn there. A little bit of contact as well on the rear end from McNeely as Kai Pacini is trying to come back through, and Clifford and Bunn remain side by side.
And this is looking like a really good start from the boys so far. Just some nice clean racing as we're seeing Clifford there keep it on the inside of turn number 4 to keep it ahead of Bunn there, and looking really good indeed. Always seeing a bit of a wiggle there from Pacini, going side by side with Zach Sweeney there, getting up the inside of turn number 5. As you get towards turn number 6, who's going to be bigger and braver in this really fast left-handed corner? It's going to be Zach Sweeney getting up a position up to P6, and let's see if he can sneak through once again. There's also Alderton there trying to get through on the Pacini as well, maybe a bit of contact on the rear through turn 7, but looking like overall a really good start and a set up for a great race.
Yeah, Pacini just struggling to get into the rhythm of this race, and you do not have time to build up your chances in that rhythm, and Adam Alderton knows that and knew that that was the perfect time to go on the attack. Jean-Paul Lavaggi had a great pre-qualifying, not necessarily a great qualifying session, and might be under a lot of pressure from Fabian Bollen on that run down to turn 1. Look at the weaving as everyone tries to basically break the slipstream of the car. It's not about reactionary moves. Obviously, Cam, you'll know about my view on reactionary moves when it comes to racing. That's not reactionary, that's just trying to break the slipstream of the car behind.
Yeah, that's a classic move, trying to get out the slipstream, and it's so difficult to actually break the slipstream once you're in that sort of position, as we're seeing Bunn there in the background trying to go to the outside of Clifford to try and make him have a bit of a worse exit coming out to turn 3, trying to getting a bit of a run towards turn 4, and it might have worked because there's a little bit of a gap just ahead of Clifford, so he's not going to be getting too much of a slipstream. Now Bunn is really going to be in the slipstream behind him, down towards the braking zone. Is he going to be able to get his car along or down the inside? That is really going to be the question as we come back to Lavaggi battling for P9 overall with Ballon just behind him as this train continues all the way down. The cars staying so close together.
I think McNeely is up into that 3rd position, which might not necessarily be the worst thing in the world for this group, because the top 2 are clearing off. 1.4 seconds is the gap between Theo Mercurius and Liam McNeely. So there is a decent gap appearing as Clifford's dropping back. What's happened to Nathan Clifford, who's dropped all the way back to, I believe, 8th position behind even Adam Alderton, and might even drop behind the car that we are riding on board with of Jean-Paul Lavaggi. What has happened to Nathan Clifford?
Yeah, he was batting with Bunn, and considering Bunn lost a place as well to McNeely, I reckon there was a bit of contact there between the two. And McNeely managed to sneak past, of course, but Clifford losing, what's about 5 positions now, right back in the train, and looking, pretty difficult situation for him to come back from that as all. Loads of cars. Alderton going way wide as they try and get the maximum speed.
Clifford
out
slow again.
onto this back straight.
Clifford slow again. He's going to lose a position to Jean-Paul Lavaggi, maybe even Fabian Bollen as well, as we focus on this battle for 3rd position. McNeely, Bunn in the red car, McNeely in the burgundy. Don't really know where to go with that one. Slightly pinkish red. Defends for 3rd position. Now this is bad. If they are going to fight this hard, it just gives the top 2 a golden ticket to finish 1st or 2nd. It's exactly what we saw at Silverstone when the battling behind allowed Dylan Warren to clear off to a monstrous lead. But I think they are just going to fight out. So why you've got to be tactical in a race like this. Zach Sweeney going on the attack of Oliver Bunn. Reminder that it's Clive Pacini and Adam Alderton directly behind this. Nathan Clifford has dropped back behind Jean-Paul Lavaggi, but did actually drop behind Fabian Bollen as well. As around the outside, Zach Sweeney, he's tried some bold moves at Silverstone. He's trying yet another one outside of 6, outside of 7 as well. Little bit of contact, might well have been pushed over the curb. Fantastic move from Zach Sweeney, who sweeps past, gets up into 4th place, now starts setting his sights on yet another podium in this championship.
Let's go, Zach. Making up those positions already. Exciting stuff from him over the last couple of races. Making it onto the podium last time and just 1 place off it as it stands. Still 25 minutes to go, but looking in a really good place for now. As we saw Warren in the foreground there, really trying to get out the slipstream like the guys a little bit further back are. But what's happened to Nathan Clifford over the last couple of laps, dropping all the way down, and even more, as you say, going back behind both Ballon and Lavaggi. Just struggling a little bit. I wonder if maybe he has some damage or something like that, because he was looking very fast indeed, but he's now got the slipstream coming up towards the braking zone of turn number 3. Can he dive it down the inside there of Lavaggi? But Lavaggi's going to defend, but then it's actually going to be Clifford diving it down the inside. Can he make it on the inside? Is there going to be a bit of contact? No, side by side, and actually quite a nice move there from Clifford as he's going to get the slipstream on the exit.
Yeah, feeling very, very hungry indeed. A little bit of a battle in the background between Jamie Bradfield and Justin Nowak. Alexander Mikos getting through in that. We look backwards from Fabian Bolland. There is the look down the inside once again as Nathan Clifford just gets dived. Jean-Paul Lavagey gets through. Nice little move once again from Lavagey. And Clifford remains in 10th place despite that fantastic qualifying. The pace just isn't there. The rhythm just isn't there in the race. By the way, when you were speaking of that defensive move from Dylan Warren to try and break the slipstream with Theo Mercurius, didn't kind of catch. We were blocked a little bit by where we were viewing it, but Theo Mercurius did not follow the slipstream of Dylan Warren. I think he's trying to send a message to Dylan Warren and be like, look, don't bother breaking the slipstream. Sit here and let's work together to build this 3-second gap now.
Look at this battle. 5 cars out of the final corner, literally nose to tail, touching the front wing onto the rear wing of each other. Hopefully they keep it all in a straight line, and they need to be careful here because you lose all your visual references of the braking zones, of the apexes and turning points, and they need to be careful as Zach Sweeney goes miles wide there, and it's going to be a bit of a run for the car behind him, which is Bikini, up towards turn number 2 and 3. And these guys need to be careful to not outbrake each other when they're so close to each other.
Zach Sweeney needs to be careful not to run too far wide at T1 to not get a slowdown penalty. Here comes Pacini to the outside of Sweeney. These two work together in qualifying. Look at that, diving it down the inside at the final moment. Adam Alderton to get to the inside of Oliver Bunn as well. The outside line does prevail though. A little bit of slipstream ahead. Zach Sweeney still trying to find the way past. Liam McNeely leads this little train for 3rd position. Kai Pacini back to the outside. 3 wide once again down into turn 5. This could end in tears if you're not careful. The defensive move and from McNeely. Oh, but he's run too far wide. Zach Sweeney's going to sweep up into 3rd position. It was Pacini who was trying to slot it through and then go around the outside of Sweeney. Nearly a fantastic move from Pacini. 2 young commentators, by the way, these two, between Sweeney and Pacini, both of them being fantastic in the commentary booth as well as on the racetrack as well, and continuing to fight it out. Costly mistake though from Liam McNeely to drop down now into the defensive position against Liam Alderton.
Yeah, and Alderton is really starting to battle there. They're sort of side by side on the XL turn 7, which is really what you want to see. These young drivers go at it, and it's been pretty crazy first sort of 5 laps of this race so far. And let's hope that continues because this has been great so far. But it is Zach Sweeney to the front of this pack, trying to chase down the leaders, but the leaders are gone really. They're 4 seconds in the lead now, and they're just having a bit of a race between themselves. So we'll have to check on them at some point. But I think they're just trying to make sure they're getting away from this pack so they don't get involved and lose too much time. But now Bikini is under attack from Oliver Bunn coming up towards turn 3. This seems like a really good overtaking opportunity into turn 3 if you can keep it on the brakes. Are we going to see a bit of a dive there? No, a bit of a defensive move there from Bikini, as there's a bit of contact on the back of Sweeney as well. These 3 are getting so close.
Yeah, a little bit slow on the exit there, and a little bit of a get on with it, if you would please, from Kai Pacini. He was running in 2nd place last round before a very unfortunate disconnection. Like I said, he's got a bit of work to do within this. Once again, trying the outside move at turn number 5 and nearly making that one stick. Good effort, got to say. But that one not quite doing so. We'll say that Zach Sweeney not falling into the trap of just absolutely pushing someone clean off the racetrack on the exit that we've seen in other open wheel championships. Oliver Bunn trying to go on the attack of Kai Pacini, still not anything. The train working very, very hard indeed. Of course, Zach Sweeney, Kai Pacini, Oliver Bunn, Liam McNeely, Adam Alderton, all within this train as we ride on board with the red of Oliver Bunn, looking to the inside, coming down into the penultimate corner of turn number 9. No way to pass. You said before that Dylan Moore and Theo Mercurius are running away with this at the moment. They are indeed, because Theo Mercurius is being absolutely genius about this. He's just sat there sipping on the slipstream, allowing Dylan Warren to do what he does best and set some mega lap times, which with this battle happening here might allow Zach Sweeney the same fortune.
Yeah, Zach's got himself a couple of car lengths side by side in turn number 1. That was a bit of a send there by McNeely coming through on Bunn up the inside of turn number 1. Swap positions, and can he get Bacini in the same straight? That would be a really good maneuver, and that just shows you if you don't attack yourself, you're going to be attacked as well. Look at this, everyone flicking left and right, coming towards the braking zone, and somehow Bacini is still holding on to that position. McNeely couldn't make it down the inside.
Yeah, that one really was a bit of an inhale of breath, and I don't think that I was the only one doing it. I'm pretty sure if you're Zach Sweeney watching your mirrors when that's happening, you think, oh, I'm going to get taken out here. No, we're all right. Kai Pacini, defensive ever so slightly, keeping his eyes on McNeely in the background. Oliver Bunn as well. Alderton just sat at the rear end of this train. You've got to watch out for Fabian Bond. You've got to watch out for Nathan Clifford, who did get back past Jean-Paul Lavaggi, who's had issues himself, dropping down to 17th place. Unfortunately, has Lavaggi, whether that was assisted or a solo issue, we'd have to wait and see. But more cars are rejoining this, and we know that Nathan Clifford most certainly has the pace to battle with this group. So the harder they battle, the larger this group is going to get. Let's see if there's going to be any move down in towards the penultimate corner and final corner. There's the final, that very, very late look from Liam McNeely. Genius to try it every now and then. You're trying to fill up the mirrors. You're trying to distract the car ahead. Did not work on that occasion. I think Kai Bettini is a little bit too wise to it.
Yeah, you got to be careful when and where you're doing that as well, because what you want to do as well is make the car ahead go offline and get a worse exit. We're seeing Bun there go really wide in turn one. Is he going to get a bit of a good run? Actually, McNeely potentially a little bit too close to the car ahead of him of Bettini as well. That's now the slipstream up towards turn number 2 and 3 again. McNeely right under the gearbox of Bettini. Is there going to be a bit of a dive down the inside? Bettini actually goes a bit defensive, so this is what I mean. So he's going to get potentially a bit of a worse exit here. And Bun and McNeely might be able to get himself a bit of an exit, or a bit of contact though. Bun there going in too hot, and he's lost all his momentum.
Now, if you don't get damage from that, you might actually assist the car ahead, just that push off the corner. I mean, you might help them spin. But you might just give them that little extra acceleration that sometimes it might require to gain. As they are battling, as we've said, those slight defensive moves from Kai Bettini, it's just allowing Zach Sweeney to move on. It is critical now for Sweeney. If he wants a second consecutive podium in the championship here in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports Competition UK over on the boys' side of things, it's critical to remain clean, to make sure you're getting some good laps in, to not make any mistake right now. Because if you could do that, if you could break the slipstream to around about 1 to 1.5 seconds, you're gold. You are absolute gold.
Yeah, Zach is doing what he needs to do. If he can just, as you say, get those extra couple of tenths on Bikini, that would really help him as we get towards the mid part of this race. But that four-way battle for 4th place is continuing, and it is really good to see. Indeed, you still don't know what's going to happen as Dylan Warren going all the way to the pit wall to try and get rid of Mercurius. But I don't think he's going to be able to get out of that slipstream. I think Mercurius is just doing what he needs to do, sitting there in the slipstream, just getting pulled along as they're now 5 seconds ahead of Zach Sweeney.
Yeah, they are, like I say, I think Theo Mercurius is playing this so well. Was denied a podium in the final moments of Silverstone, courtesy of Zach Sweeney's move going through Maggots and Beckett's. Bit of side-by-side in the background between, of course, Oliver Bunn and Liam McNeely, which is critical for Kai Bettini to try and close back down on Zach Sweeney. Mercurius is playing his cards right. He's just sat there. Dylan Warren's doing his big defence. Yep, fair enough, trying to break the slipstream. Mercurius doesn't care, not one bit. He's just sat on his line being like, you do you. We'll have another discussion about this with 5 minutes to go in the race, and we'll see if I'll start attacking for that race lead. But right now, no need to do so. A little bit of contact there. I think that's allowing the two at the head of this field to run away and start fighting for the podium between them.
Yeah, it looks like we separate into a 2 and a 3 package, all side by side on the inside there of turn number 6, and Alderton had to back out of that one, but Bunn doing a really good job to try and just hold on to that very tricky situation to be on the outside. You're really difficult position to try and guess the car width on the inside that you need to leave for your competitor. But yeah, Alderton now getting right behind. Oh, that's very late on the brakes, manages to get it stopped.
My goodness.
That's not a huge braking zone, that was a huge overspeed.
Now, this is obviously, from Oliver Bunn's point of view, is probably braking nice and early to carry the speed through the corner. And also, this car is all about momentum. If you brake a little bit early, carry the speed through, especially with the car ahead. You use that car ahead to help you carry the speed through the corner, down the hill. And I think that Adam Alderton wasn't quite ready for a little tap of the brakes that early. From the driver, which is presently sat in 6th position as the battle for 5th place continues. Still not able to break away is Kai Bettini. Look at that for an absolute send from Oliver Bunn. Straight into the side. Who's going to pick up a position? 1, maybe 2. Oliver Bunn's gone for a spin, maybe out onto the barrier as well as coming out of that corner as well. Fabian Bolland and Nathan Clifford run side by side. Now a position bonus for the pair of them. Nathan Clifford potentially up into 7th position. Costly mistake from Oliver Bunn, in too deep on the brakes, way too heavy on the right foot. Half spins out of the position, but still remains in the top 10, looking to pick up a couple of points.
Yeah, that is just showing you the risk versus reward. He took the risk. He didn't need to do that. He was in a good place. They could just work together. Still half the race left to go. But he took the risk to get that one place. And instead, he's lost about 4 or 5 positions. So, yeah, really just something maybe to think about in the future. They were in such a good position. And especially in a race like this where the slipstream is so much, he's not going to be able to bridge that gap back to that battle ahead of him. So yeah, going to be a difficult struggle to get towards the podium once again, as we're seeing the slipstream of Dylan Warren getting followed by Theo Mercurius once again as come onto the start-finish straight. And in the background there you see Zach Sweeney hasn't been able to shake off Bikini as they stay quite close together.
Yeah, I think it was critical for Kai Bettini to break away from that group behind. And whilst the gap was 8-9 of a second, start separating himself from that pack, start setting some decent lap times whilst the slipstream's still there to Zach Sweeney. And once he's closed it in, I think even Zach will probably know right now that, okay, the running away from that is kind of done right now. That side of things is sorted. Hopefully, when Kai Bettini gets there, if they're, you know, being wise, play the long game, sit there, try and build the gap to the cars behind. And I know some people will be like, the long game, there's 13 minutes left. That's still plenty of laps, and it only takes 1 lap to make a move around here. Timing is everything. There is no use being in the lead, being in 3rd place right now, because it leaves you as a sitting target for the final couple of laps. You kind of, if you're sitting there, if you're not, don't worry about it right now. Worry about the positions that you want to be fighting for later on in the race.
Marc Marquez circa 2018-19. This position sits right behind and then waits for the perfect moment with, you know, maybe the last lap, maybe 4 or 5 laps to go, whenever he knows he can get in the lead and then keep it. Because the issue is you don't want to start battling now and then you just lose it, and then effectively you've just lost the pair of you a couple of seconds. You need to overtake at the right time, and is looking pretty good for these guys at the moment. And I think Mercurius is just sitting there nicely. He got 4th last time out after a nice battle as well, so certainly knows what it's like to be towards the front. And let's see how this one works out for these two, as in the background it looks like Bettini's getting closer to Zach Sweeney for that 3rd place, and I'm just hoping that we don't see anything too crazy from these guys, because if they can keep that battle for now, they're going to pull away from the cars behind and make sure they can at least get a confirmed 3rd and 4th place.
Yeah, like I say, you're playing the points game. It's just whether Bettini is going to be particularly patient on the rear end of Sweeney, as Theo Mercurius is being to Dylan Warren at the lead of the group. And same again, what happens to Adam Alderton and Liam McNeely? Well, there is the answer to the question. Tried it a few times. This is the 3rd attempt for Kai Bettini to go around the outside once we go into Schlossgold. Not able to make that one stick. I keep calling it turn 5. Obviously, I'm skipping corners around here now. It's turn 4 around the circuit. Turn 5 is that sort of kink, not really, but sort of is. Down towards this one, 6, then 7. I'm going to get really angry about calling numbers around the circuit because it's just there to throw me off.
Yeah, the MotoGP boys decided to add turn 2 as well, which Formula 1 swiftly followed along to keep up and not make it too difficult. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting track for the corner numbers. But look how close Bettini's there, getting right underneath the gearbox of Zach Sweeney as we come out onto the start-finish straight. 11 minutes to go in this race, and these boys have given us a really good race so far, but still a few laps to go for them to decide who is going to get on the podium. And at the moment, it looks like Bettini's there down the inside. Zach Sweeney is going to not actually defend that because he knows he can get the run now up towards turn 3. I think he definitely tried a bit of a slingshot there. Bettini, unnatural move there up the inside of turn 1, because normally you'd wait here, but let's see what Zach Sweeney does. Bit of a wiggle there, left, right, goes to the left, and now to the outside of turn number 3. Who is going to come out on top round the outside? Looks like Zach Sweeney's going to be able to hold it around the outside, but just lose out on the exit, with Bettini there with a bit of a bad exit.
Yeah, just lost a little bit of rear. Zach Sweeney coming back to the inside, this hard fighting, giving the ticket to Adam Alderton, giving the ticket to Liam McNeely, even maybe Nathan Clifford and Oliver Bunn as well to rejoin this battle for the podium. This is most certainly not done as Bunn and Clifford battle out for 7th position. Bettini in 3rd position now then. Zach Sweeney with the attacking work needed to do, and 1 second to the group behind. 10 minutes left in this race. We have completed 2/3 of the running in the boys' race. And I think I'm not necessarily sure what's going to happen in this podium battle. It depends on how much of the long game they want to play. weirdly enough, the longer they don't play the long game, the less time they have to play it, the more people they're going to have in the battle, the kind of the worse this can get.
Yes, right. I'm picking up what you're putting down. It's sort of a bit of a backwards theory in that one. I know what you're saying, but the most important point as well is in terms of the point standings, the top 16 is what they're aiming for. So this is good, but they don't need to battle every single inch. Oh, Zach Sweeney going towards the inside, going towards the pit wall, having to back out of that one. But Bochini now surely is going to be getting a bit of a bad exit if Zach Sweeney can get back to the race line, which I think he did, and now he's going to be getting a run up towards turn number 2 and 3 once again, longest straight on the track, up the hill, and a really nice braking zone. Zach Sweeney to the left-hand side, a bit of a shorter run through the kink of turn number 2. Can he get under the brakes? No, he's going to switch back to the inside, down the inside of turn 3, gets it to the apex, goes a bit wide though, and Bochini's coming straight back past.
Oh, don't repeat the issues of Oliver Bunn earlier. Nearly lit it up ever so hard, and keeps going in this race, keeps battling, but now the tickets are here. Those behind are battling, and one thing for sure, whether they're playing the long game, short game or whatever, they're putting on a show. I think that is the critical thing. I'm sure we will get one as well from Dylan Moore and Theo Makiris before we reach the checkered flag. 8 minutes and 20 seconds left in this race, so plenty of time for those to battle it out. But Bochini with the 3rd place, Sweeney, then Alton, McNeely, Bunn, Clifford. They're all joining this battle. They are all going to start fighting for the podium position in the final moments of the race. And with so many people being involved in that, it means your risk of potentially finishing 3rd, of potentially finishing even in 8th if things go wrong for the likes of Bochini, for Sweeney and that lot. For Clifford, looking at this thinking this is perfect. After the issues that I've had through this race, I might be able to sneak something great out of it.
There's still sort of 5-6 laps left in the race as well, so plenty of overtaking opportunities for these guys as we get towards the latter parts in the race, where you are sort of running out of opportunities and people might start taking a few more risks than we've already seen in the race so far. But Zach Sweeney now, maybe to be fair to him, isn't quite as fast as just a couple of tenths here or there extra would have helped him to pull out the slipstream, but he couldn't do it. And now Bochini has obviously got back past him, so he needs to find a way to get past without losing time, because as you say, these guys coming up behind him, if he starts battling them, he might start losing more positions from what is sort of a guaranteed sort of top 5-ish finish for him at the moment. Needs to be making sure to stay on the back of Bochini, getting that slipstream, doing a bit of what Makiris is doing at the front.
Wow, I think we're going to get a 6-car fight. It was enthralling with 5. It might be madness with 6, with just 6 minutes left to go in this race. Add an extra lap on, depending on where they're going to be in this race. We return to our race leader of Dylan Moran, and you can see basically being copied step for step, corner for corner, apex for apex by Theo Makiris directly behind him, that 2nd position. Wise driving from Makiris. Again, said he had that podium sort of robbed from him in the previous race right at the final moments. You could argue potentially had the race lead robbed from him on the race start here. Of course, starting from pole position, a fantastic one it was. Dylan Moran had the inside line on that run into turn 1. Not necessarily sure he'll be too bothered by that, considering the scenario right now, because if there's one thing that you'd want in a race like this, just leave it as a 1v1. Once you're in a pack, basically it's luck as to what position you finish in, very much Moto3 style. When it's one-on-one, that's when you make the difference. That's when timing is critical. That's when it comes down to racecraft.
Yeah, you can use your ability to try and get past the car ahead, as you say, take the luck out of the equation, which is often a bit difficult to do, because sometimes factors happen that aren't really your fault, but that is, that's just a way of racing. As we see batting once again, Zach Sweeney trying it again in turn number 3, can't get past. But just a little fun fact I've seen: the top 8 drivers, so all the way down to Nathan Clifford, the yellow car in the background, top 8 drivers, the fastest lap of the race between them. Is only separated by 4 tenths from the fastest to the slowest, just showing you how close the lap times are, even with the top guys going off, and looking pretty good indeed between these drivers. So just showing you how close it can be, and just how important these final 5 minutes are going to be for these drivers. Can Zach Sweeney find himself a way back past? And
the fastest lap, by the way, from anyone on this grid comes from Theo Makiris with a 1:34.328. So those tight margins going in favour of Mercurius. Let's see that defensive move from Kai Bacchini. Zach Sweeney trying to go around the outside. He does love a bold move, does Zach Sweeney. Put on a bit of a show at Silverstone, has already put on a show here at the Red Bull Ring, and the two young commentators going to battle it out for their final spot on the podium, being joined by Alderton. Of course, Rallycross fame goes his way, and I think maybe even some open wheel fame might well do so as well. The defensive move up towards turn number 1 through the Lauder curve. Nicely done and nicely executed from Kai Bacchini. Alderton, though, is knocking right at that door.
I think Sweeney needs to go for this. Otherwise, I think Alderton is going to be coming past him. Indeed, he's got to attack, to defend. 3 wide in the braking zone as we come towards turn 3. Just a couple of laps to go. So important. Side by side now through turn 3. Alderton's going to get a run. Can he get past both the drivers? No, Bacchini actually does a bit of a good defense, and I think Sweeney's lost out with this one. He had to go for it, but unfortunately just was really sort of the wrong track position to be able to do that. And now is Alderton now going to be able to go around the outside in turn number 4. That's going to be a brave move to get himself up onto the podium. A bit of contact, and I think Zach Sweeney might just have a bit of a run as Bunn and McNeely having a bit of a ding-dong in the background as well.
Yeah, that was a 100% Kai Bacchini attempt there from Alderton. And Zach Sweeney, he's going to show how going around the outside is done, as he did a bit earlier on in the race. Straight into the gravel trap. Nice work there, son. Obviously did that fantastically earlier on the race. Less so that time. Zach Sweeney, work on it, my boy. He's now under a lot of pressure from Oliver Bunn. I think his chances of a podium are starting to fade a little bit here. Is Zach Sweeney getting a little bit pinched up towards turn 9, going down the hill. Oliver Bunn trying to go around the outside. Issues for Bunn today, getting squeezed off a little bit there from Zach Sweeney. Opens the door for Liam McNeely to come through, gets squeezed off once again, does Oliver Bunn. I think he'll be thinking, how have I irritated these two then this afternoon? I think we've got about 3, maybe 2 laps to go in this race based on the gaps. I think it'll be very, very close to it being 3 over the running of this race. And to be fair, I'm kind of watching this battle thinking, go on, be 3.
Yeah, another lap would be pretty good indeed, as now Alderton's worked his way from the back of this pack and now fighting for the podium. Bacchini defending once again to the inside. Alderton, the shorter run up the inside now. That's obviously going to turn to the outside, which we've seen is very difficult, but he gets a switchback. Can he get his nose up the inside this time? Bacchini's got his nose there the last 2 laps, and he has once again. So Alderton's so close to getting the run there out of turn 3. Now as we come towards turn 4, needs to be making this braking maneuver down the inside, but decides not to do it this time, and a bit of battling in the background has given Zach Sweeney a bit of a gift as well. So these guys really battling hard with just a couple of laps to go.
Yeah, this is properly coming down to the final lap of the race. No doubt about it with this group as to who is going to finish on the podium. And it genuinely can be any one of these 6 drivers realistically still involved in this battle. Bacchini, Alderton, Sweeney, McNeely, Bunn and Clifford all battling it out for the final step on the podium with 1 minute and 40 seconds left on the clock. My goodness me, it is very, very close. Coming down to the start-finish straight. Oh, there's a bit of contact as well onto the rear end from Adam Alderton. I was just going to say, the timing across the line, this is coming down to seconds as to whether we are going to see the checkered flag or not. I do not know. We'll find out once the leaders cross it. Obviously, they're 11 seconds clear of this group. I think it might actually be the final lap of the race, and timing is critical, but they don't know if it's last or not.
They just got to go for this. Alderton needs to go for this up in turn 3. He's got to think that this is the final lap of the race. He's probably assuming that with Zach Sweeney just behind us. Zach getting a double slipstream here up towards turn 3, really gaining on these 2 drivers. Who's going to come out on top coming towards turn 3? Bacchini defending on the inside. Zach Sweeney just holding it to the back of this pack, but Alderton round the outside this time. He isn't going to do a switchback, and that could give Zach Sweeney a great slipstream coming down towards turn 4. Can Bacchini hold on the inside once again? He's been defending so well for the last 4 or 5 laps, but Alderton is really trying this, getting so close. Zach Sweeney getting involved as well. 2 wide, 3 wide coming towards turn 4, and it looks like Alderton round the outside. That would be a brilliant overtake, but he hasn't quite managed to make it work, and Bacchini somehow holding on to this with only seconds to go.
Yeah, that was a really good attempt there as Alderton straight back to the inside, looking for the move. By the way, I've got on my other screen, I'm keeping an eye as to what's happening between Dylan Moran and Mercurius. No attempt so far. There goes Zach Sweeney, stealing it once again in the final moments of the race as he grabs 4th position from Adam Alderton. 10 seconds on the clock. We'll have to take a look at our race leaders and see if Dylan Warren is going to come across the line to win here. Red Bull Ring as they cross the line. It certainly is. They slowed down enough. Clearly Theo Mercurius was in with it as well. Warren crosses the line and is our race victory once again here in the ROKiT Racing Star Formula 4 Esports Competition UK. Across the line to take third position, it is going to be Kai Bacchini, just ahead of Zach Sweeney. No 2 consecutive podium finishes for Sweeney, but what a battle it was. Oliver Bunn managed to steal 5th place as well, and the final spot inside that top 5 from Adam Alderton. McNeely and Clifford come across in an enthralling battle for that, basically for the podium from start to finish in that little group. But what a sensational battle it was. Dylan Warren, though, manages to take it, and not only that, but in those final moments of the race, set the fastest lap as well to secure the bonus point here at Austria. Theo Mercurius, I don't necessarily think he was trying to battle for the race lead in all of that, just sat there and accepted the points. Again, playing the long game. It's all about being inside that top 16 to get involved in the championship finale when we get to it at Bolton. Another great race though, Cam. Another great battle.
Yeah, that race was amazing. The amount of battles that we saw, and as you see, Alderton, we thought was going to be on the podium at one point, and then he finished his 6th, just showing you how crazy the battles are. So close between these guys. What's about 6 cars in the space of 2.5 seconds as we come around the final corner as well. Great stuff. And I think when we get to the next race in Monza, there's going to be even more slipstreaming, and it's going to be even better. So it's yeah, just looking really good. And as you see there, qualifying for Monza 16th of February, so it's already open. Go and get yourself involved, free to enter, and you could be involved with these drivers on the track and this exciting racing.
Yeah, obviously for those that aren't necessarily sure as to how to take part in a competition such as this, well, you can head over onto Steam, download RaceRoom completely for free, and then find this under the competitions system, of course. Also, you can head over to racingstar.com to find out more about the ROKiT Racing Star Formula Esports Sim Racing Competition UK, and to find out how you can get yourselves entered into it. A reminder, it is you must be a UK resident and you must be aged between 14 and 15, but we could very much do with seeing more of this fantastic young talent. It's entirely what this competition is about finding out the future of what is to come. Another fantastic round, though, wrapped up here at the Red Bull Ring. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time when we come back to Monza, and I'm sure the racing will be just as good around there. Of course, another track where it's all about Slipstream City. And, of course, Spa-Francorchamps, Hockenheim Ring. These are great racetracks for such a light and nimble car. Race winners, once again, same as it was last round out at Silverstone. Monica Bolton-Ramus and Dylan Warren. We'll see if they can make it the three-peat at Monza. Until then, though, goodbye.
Watching for the lights, they are on. Good start from pole position. That's the battle for the championship lead. Just 7 points separating those two. Is he going to be able to get the run here? Contact there. This is going to be another massive story, and another driver potentially on with a podium finish. He's got it! He's got it!